Let me paint the picture for you, okay? You know the women who seem to have it all figured out when it comes to her health. Like she looks phenomenal without ever being on a diet or a plan. She eats healthy without making it her whole personality. She goes out to dinner and she orders what she actually wants without spiraling. She doesn't miss workouts, but she also doesn't seem obsessed with living at the gym. She eats dessert and moves on with her life. She looks good consistently, not just when she's being good. She never seems out of control or complaining about her body image. If you're anything like I used to be, you've looked at that woman and you've instantly felt jealous. Instantly thought one of two things. Either she just has good genetics, like that could never be me, or she has some kind of willpower that I just wasn't born with. Because I knew that I was working hard. I was tracking everything. I was following the plan. I was being disciplined. And I still felt like I was constantly fighting myself just to feel good in my skin, just to stay lean. I was in constant negotiation between if I was doing the right thing, if I was doing enough, if I was being too obsessive or not disciplined. And these women just look like they're not fighting at all. Here's what I've observed in my own journey becoming this kind of woman as my health and fitness has evolved over the past 10 years. And also, what I've seen in coaching almost 1,000 women at this point is the difference between the women who are stuck or white knuckling their way through a transformation versus the ones who make it look like second nature and are able to maintain the results without extremes. It's never about genetics, it's never about willpower, it's about their identity. And I view identity being made up of two different things: your beliefs and your behaviors. What you believe about yourself shapes how you act, and how you act reinforces what you believe. Like they're in constant feedback with one another. And the women that we're talking about today are not just doing things differently than the women who stay stuck. They are being someone different. And that distinction is everything, because you can copy someone's meal plan or their workout routine, but if your identity hasn't shifted, the habits will never stick. You're always going to revert back to who you believe yourself to be. And that is exactly what today's episode is about. It's peeling back the curtain on what these women, the women who make staying fit and lean look effortless, what they're actually doing, thinking, and believing. Because the truth is, it's not effortless for them. It's just natural to who they are, which is what makes it look effortless on the outside. So today we're going to kind of break down some of these traits. And I want you to think about two different questions. Which of these traits or beliefs do I already embody? And which of these is the next version of me that I'm still building? So you can really get crystal clear and make this episode tangible for you. So trait number one is automation over reaction. The first thing that separates women who stay consistently fit and lean from those who stay stuck is that their foundations are automated versus being reactive. They're not making health decisions in the moment. They are making them in advance. So they always have a plan, not a rigid, obsessive, everything mapped out to the minute kind of plan, but a general framework that guides their decisions throughout the day. Honestly, that removes the amount of decisions that they have to make in a day. You, as a high achiever, as a high performer, you have to think about so many things, from your work to your family to you name it, that usually when it comes to making an aligned decision for yourself, for your health, that feels like the hardest one to make. And that's the one that's frequently deprioritized at the end of the day. So take that decision off of your mental plate. The women who make it look effortless, they know what their week looks like in terms of workouts and what they're eating. They have a general structure that runs in the background of their life like an operating system. And because of that structure and those systems, the basics of staying in shape are on autopilot. The same way that brushing your teeth is on autopilot. You don't negotiate with yourself every morning about whether you're going to brush your teeth. You don't wake up and think, I'll see how I feel. You just do it. That is what your nutrition and movement habits need to look like. Not glamorous, not complicated, just consistent. And this matters because decisions that are made in the moment are where things really, truly fall apart. When you are tired, when you are hungry, when you are stressed, when you are emotionally depleted, and you have no plan to fall back on, your brain will default to whatever is easiest and whatever is the most immediately rewarding. This is not a willpower failure. This is just human neuroscience and how our brains work. But when the decision is already made, you don't have to rely on that willpower at all. Your decision doesn't get swayed by a reactive emotion. You just execute on the decision that you already made. On top of that, because you have a plan, a structure, systems, you stick to the basics. So these women are really good at avoiding what I call shiny object syndrome. You're not reactively chasing the newest diet trend, the newest supplement, the newest protocol that you see on TikTok. You're sticking to the basics, the whole foods, the consistent movement, the adequate sleep, the managing your stress, because you understand that the boring habits executed consistently beat complicated protocols followed sporadically every single time. So, what needs to be put on automation? What basics do you need to build a system or a structure or a clear plan around so that your emotions aren't driving your decisions? Trait number 2 is adaptability over rigidity. Now, this is where we get to evolve trait 1 a little bit, because when a high performer, a high performing like perfectionist like yourself, here's plan, you picture being like a rigid robot that just repeats the same things every day, no matter the circumstances. And that's not actually how this type of woman operates. The woman who stays fit and lean long term are not ones who follow the plan perfectly. They're ones who know how to adapt the plan accordingly when life inevitably kind of gets in the way. Your plan is not Bible, it is guide. And when circumstances change, whether you're traveling, you have a busy work week, you have a social event coming up, you maybe had a bad night's of sleep, you don't just fall apart and spiral into an all or nothing cycle. You don't declare the week a wash and start over on Monday. Women who stay fit and lean year round pivot and find a solution. They ask themselves, okay, well, what can I do given what I have? What do I have control over? Instead of saying, okay, well, what's the point if I can't do it perfectly? The mindset that they have is not being on track versus being off track. It's not good days versus bad days. It's just a lifestyle. Lifestyles do not have on-off switches. You do not take a vacation from who you are. That's why this is an identity level transformation. So being adaptable is a non-negotiable if you want to stay lean and fit for the long haul. Adaptability looks like in practice is being able to stay anchored in your non-negotiables and your values, even when the specific execution of those non-negotiables and values has to change a little bit. So let me give you some examples. Maybe you can't make it to the gym, but you do a 20-minute at-home workout, or you go for a 20-minute walk because movement is still a value of yours. Moving your body is still a non-negotiable. Maybe you're traveling for work, so you focus on protein and veggies and let the rest kind of be flexible. So instead of tracking your macros to a T, like you typically would in your normal routine, you're going to pivot the plan, you're going to adapt a bit, and you're going to focus on the non-negotiables, protein and fiber, to keep you feeling full, keep your metabolism good, keep your body composition in a place where you feel confident in. Maybe you have a big social weekend coming up. So Monday through Friday, you're going to be a little bit more dialed in so that you can give yourself that flexibility on the weekends. That's a good adaptability strategy. You know what your non-negotiables are, so you anchor yourself to them and then adjust the rest accordingly. One of the things that I really think holds a lot of high-achieving women back from being able to adapt versus falling into all or nothing patterns is because you're constantly putting pressure on yourself to always be making progress. And that giving yourself this permission to pull your foot off the gas a little bit, or to rest, or to pivot the plan and not do things the most ideal way every single day all the time is misconstrued mentally as evidence that you're falling behind or you're failing or that you're not doing good enough. Like, no, babe. A part of making progress is being able to enjoy the process, is being able to live your life, not put your life on pause because you're chasing these surface level goals that aren't actually going to bring you the happiness that you're thinking that they are. I try to never use the terms falling off track or getting off track with clients because the whole journey itself has twists and turns and detours. You are still on track, even if it's not a straight shot from A to B. It's never going to be a straight shot from A to B. There's always going to be stop signs and red lights and traffic jams and potty breaks along the way, but you're still on track. It's still a part of the process of making progress, is taking these detours, is being able to adapt and change the plan for a week or a weekend or a day. And every time that you do this, every time you adapt instead of quit, every time you show up imperfectly instead of not showing up at all, you're building something that matters more than any single workout or meal. You're building self-trust with yourself. You're proving to yourself that you are someone who figures it out. And that is the identity that compounds over time in a way that no perfect week ever could. That is the identity that makes your results sustainable for the long haul, that makes your results a lifestyle, which make it look effortless on the outside. So that's trait number 2. Trait number 3 is moderation over restriction. The phrase, I can't have that, does not exist in the vocabulary of a woman who's consistently lean. And I want you to really sit with that because for a lot of us, that phrase has been like the backbone of every diet that you've ever been on. These women are not white knuckling their way through life, avoiding foods that they love. They eat the thing, they go to the dinner, they have the glass of wine, they get the dessert, and then they move on without guilt, without compensation, without spiraling. The women who struggle with moderation are not struggling because you lack willpower. You're struggling because you haven't built trust with yourself around food yet. You spent so long in that restrict and rebel cycle that the second that something that's typically off limits is now in front of you, it feels urgent. It feels like an opportunity that won't come again. So therefore, you overdo it. Not because you're out of control necessarily, but because the mindset of scarcity, it does that to you. The women who have cracked the code of moderation have done it by dismantling that scarcity mindset. So first, they know that food is always available. There's no like last supper mentality. The pizza will exist tomorrow. The chocolate is not going anywhere. When food stops feeling like a limited opportunity, the urgency for that food disappears. You can have one piece because you know you're going to have another one when you actually want it. So that's the first way to dismantle the scarcity mindset and actually be able to practice moderation. The second is when you do eat something more indulgent, be intentional about it. Eat it alongside something that's actually balanced. This is not like restrictive. This is not obsessive. This is about caring and respecting what you're putting into your body. This is about understanding your metabolism, understanding your physiology. This is about blood sugar stability, frankly. When you pair something rich or sweet with something that has some protein and fiber, your blood sugar is going to stay stable. So you're actually going to feel satisfied by that experience. You're going to naturally stop when you're full rather than like riding this blood sugar spike and crash that's going to drive you to keep on eating. And then thirdly, you have to eat intentionally and not emotionally. So when you are choosing foods, you're choosing it because you want it. And you're choosing it because you're actually going to enjoy it, not because you're stressed, bored, lonely, or numbing out. That distinction sounds really simple, but it's everything. Emotional eating is such a sneaky thing that high performing women struggle with. When you eat from intention, it feels like a complete experience. When you're eating from emotion, it never does because food was never there it's never able to solve the actual problem that you're experiencing. So the experience doesn't feel complete because it's just filling a void and it's not even doing that. It's making you feel worse, not better. This is how you build the kind of relationship with food where nothing is off limits and nothing feels out of control at the same time. And self-trust is one of the biggest backbones to that. Self-trust and knowing how to properly fuel your body without restrictive mentalities. That is the key. Trait number 4 is periodization over pushing. I spent a long time thinking that the women who looked the way that I wanted to were just always on, always in a deficit, always pushing, always optimizing, and that is just simply not true. It's actually the opposite of how sustainable body composition actually works. Women who stay lean long term understand that calorie deficits are just a tool. They are not a lifestyle. They spend time in a fat loss phase when it's appropriate, and then they come out of it and they return back to their maintenance. They let their body recover and stabilize before asking more of it. So they're not chronically dieting. They're doing what's called periodizing, moving intentionally between phases based off of where they're at physically, hormonally, mentally, all the things. They're also deeply aware of the season of their life that they're actually in. So they adjust accordingly. If they have a high stress season at work, maybe now's not the time to do an aggressive, calorie deficit and add tons of cardio to your to-do list. When you're feeling strong, when you're feeling rested, when you're feeling stable, okay, maybe this is the exact time to push a little bit into a structured fat loss phase. Being able to read your body and your life and respond intelligently to that instead of just pushing through regardless of the signals, that is the maturity that's required to achieve peak health and make it look effortless. This is what separates the women who make progress year over year from the ones who just keep starting over. Trait 5 is boundaries over blending in. This might be one of the most important ones and ones that doesn't really get talked about enough. The women who stay consistently fit are not afraid to say no. They are not afraid to be the person at the table who orders differently, who asks for modifications, who leaves early, who skips the second round of drinks. They've gotten to a place where liking themselves matters more than being liked by everyone else around them. Like, personally, I never let the fear of what other people think of me stop me from making modifications of the menu. Like, if I'm at a restaurant and I want to swap the fries for a side salad or ask for a sauce on the side, I do it. And it's not because I'm afraid of food, but it's because I know what makes me feel good, and I'm not willing to compromise that to avoid feeling mildly awkward in the moment with a waiter or to make everyone else around me feel more comfortable. I don't give into the social pressure to stay up super late and go out every Friday night. Like, no. I prioritize my sleep and my recovery. I get my workouts in even when it's inconvenient for the people around me. Not in a way that like makes me super rigid or unavailable, but in a way that communicates my values, that communicates this is a non-negotiable of who I am. And I share all this not to make it sound easy, because it's not easy, especially in the beginning when you're still trying to build this identity. Your friends might comment, your family might push back, your partner might not always understand, and those moments are uncomfortable. But what you need to understand is every time that you're overriding your own values to manage someone else's feelings about your choices, you are chipping away at your self-trust. You're telling yourself that what other people think about you matters more than who you're trying to become, than the life that you're trying to build for yourself. The women who stay fit and lean long-term have made a decision. Whether they've made that decision consciously or not, but they made that decision that they are not available to trade that anymore. They have done the reps of saying no, of ordering what they actually want, of leaving the social gathering when they want to leave, of showing up for themselves even when it's inconvenient. And they have built an identity on the other side of doing those reps that no one can talk them out of. I'm so strong and grounded in who I am and my values and the way that I approach health and my body and my goals. And I didn't always used to be that way, especially in college and even right out of college. I was very self-conscious about the way that I lived. And I always felt like I needed to just claim my choices. Not anymore. Not anymore. I am so firm in who I am and the boundaries that I have set for myself and my life and how I take care of my body to become the woman that I want to be and build the life that I want to have. This is what you're building to. And it takes boundaries, one boundary at a time. So here's what I want you to understand. Across all of these 5 different traits, I really want you to hear this super clearly. None of this is about being perfect. None of it's about having more discipline than the next person, or about being built differently, or having a lifestyle that makes healthy choices easy. All of this is about your identity. It's about deciding who you are and then making choices that are consistently aligned with that decision. Even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one else at the table is doing the same thing, you have to automate the basics so you don't have to rely on motivation. You stay adaptable so that imperfect circumstances never become excuses. You practice moderation so that nothing feels forbidden, nothing feels out of control. You periodize instead of push your body so that you can actually sustain this long term. And you build boundaries so that your choices belong to you, not whoever happens to be in the room. This is who she is. This is the woman that you've been watching, wondering about, wanting to become. She's not out of reach. She's just on the other side of changing your habits and repeating them enough times so they stop feeling like something that you have to effort yourself to do, and they just start feeling like you. If you want to start building that identity and you want support with it, with creating the habits and the mindset and the nutrition framework and all of it, that's the work that we do inside of my one-on-one coaching program. You can apply through the link in the show notes below, and we will chit chat about what that will look like for you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this episode, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.